As a Libyan, how was it that Colonel Gaddafi was able to hold power for 40 years?
Well, combination of things. The fact that he was heading a country which is very, very wealthy. He had a lot of money. He could buy his way. He could pay for a lot of his mistakes. He used a combination of corruption and coercion. He decimated all the political opposition from very early on. He disbanded political parties. He imprisoned all political critics. And he was very, very brutal, a sheer brutal dictator.
Kim Howells, do you now find it embarrassing that your government embraced this man?
Well, I'm not sure embrace is the right word, but...
well, it was almost literally an embrace when Tony Blair shook his hand.
Well, I don't know what his personal relationship was like with Gaddafi, but I do know that it was very, very important to persuade the Libyans and persuade Gaddafi in particular to give up those programs that he had to try to develop nuclear weapons and biological weapons and so on. I mean, if that hadn't been achieved, well, one wonders what the situation would be like in Tripoli today.
This isn't going to be over, is it, Nabila Ramdani, until he is somehow captured or killed or something?
Well, absolutely. He still has a very strong base of loyalists, and we've seen how today, in fact, has captured the incredible drama of the last 6 months. It started off...
You say he's got a very strong base of loyalists. I refer you to the pictures we can see on the wall behind us, which are the scenes of jubilation in the centre of Tripoli tonight. Does that look to you like a bunch of people who are loyal to a dictator?
No, not at all, but they are also, and it is, I'm afraid, a reality, loyalists which are infiltrated within the vast majority of the Libyan populations. And we have seen, in fact, you know, when the rebels reached the Green Square yesterday, quite easily, in fact, the resurgence of very bitter infighting by snipers, pockets of resistance, and indeed, you know, ongoing battles. And this is something which is bound to be to carry on, I'm afraid.
Guma El-Gematy, how do you read that analysis?
Out of reality, out of this world, few hundreds of snipers and mercenaries does not equate to a wide base of loyalists. That is absolutely ridiculous. No, even, by the way, tonight, even Gaddafi's own hometown, Sirte, his own tribe, Gaddafi, are now negotiating to come over to the revolution, and they totally disowned him. This man has no real support or loyalists in Libya whatsoever. He has used thousands and thousands of mercenaries and snipers. We have arrested many of them, and that is where he drew his strength over the last weeks and months.
I would love Guma to be absolutely enthusiastic about you know, this revolution, and the scenes of jubilations are entirely justified tonight. But what I'm trying to say is that let's not forget that the Libyan society is deeply entrenched with all sorts of differences, tribal rivalries, geographical rivalries, ideological rivalries, and in all sorts of conflicts you have a built-up of grievances, of resentment, a desire for revenge, of retaliation, and this is not going to be sorted out overnight. Let's not forget that it's an important point to make, but the young men we have seen storming the Gaddafi compound today are in the end young men with guns, and Libya today, Libya's population today, is amongst probably the most heavily armed in the world.
And one of the more youthful too.
Absolutely.
Kim Howells, if either of those things is true, we're in there for quite a long time to come, aren't we?
I think we are going to be in there for a very long time to come. I'm not sure what it's going to look like, but the most pernicious legacy that Gaddafi leaves Libya with is the lack of a viable and working political system. And so one's got to be created. And at the moment, as your other guests have said, there's a power vacuum there. There's the potential for disaster. And so I think we've got to do everything that we can to try to help the construction of a democratic system of government there that people can identify with. And that's not going to be easy, because for 42 years he's ruled it as a despot.
Guma, when you look at the National Transitional Council, does everybody on it want the same kind of Libya?
Absolutely, and those fighters as well, those freedom fighters, and there is absolutely unanimity on what type of Libya we want. We want
but unanimity beyond let's get rid of Gaddafi.
Yes, beyond, we have a vision, we have a clear roadmap, we have the determination, we want exactly the opposite of what Gaddafi stood for over the last 42 years. And by the way, the kind of divisions which Nabila just highlighted, ethnic, ideological, tribal, deep-rooted divisions, I think, you know, she's coming from a neighboring Algeria, but it shows she knows very, very little about Libya. I'm really disappointed and sorry to know that if you are an expert on Libya, you know very, very little. I think whoever pays you for your expertise, they're not getting their money's worth. Libya is the most homogeneous Arab society. We do not have any religious divisions. We do not have any sectarian divisions. We do not have any ethnic divisions.
No tribal divisions?
Sorry?
No tribal divisions?
No, the tribes of the few tribes.
No divisions even between dissidents in both the West and the East. Isn't it true that your headquarters are in Benghazi and most of the fighting is being done by rebels coming from the West?
That's totally been exaggerated and inflated. The people of the East are the most determined people that Libya will be a united country with Tripoli as the capital. Tribes in Libya are a social institution rather than a political institution.
Okay.
You know, we are not Iraq, we are not Somalia, we are a totally different society. We are homogeneous in North Africa and a Mediterranean society.
Let her have a
Of course.
say.
First of all, Guma, with all due respect, your comments towards me are very much a cheap shot, I have to say. And what you have been saying about the composition of the Libyan society exposes your utter ignorance or your denial of Libyan history, I'm afraid to say.
Ignorance of my own country.
but you're in denial. You are absolutely
no, I'm
in
not
denial.
in denial. I am a realist.
We have seen the revolution starting in Benghazi in the east of the country. The group which proved to be the most challenging to the Gaddafi regime came from the southwest, and we are already seeing conflicts and all sorts of conflicts between the rebels themselves, people who are fighting on the same side against Gaddafi, saying the southwest, the rebels in the southwest are now claiming to have done most of the fighting and hence should be in charge of the country. They are already vying.
There has been no fighting in the southwest.
The
southwest
oil revenues.
What are you talking about? There has been no fighting in the southwest as much as in the east and the west and northwest.
You're saying that there is no guarantee at all that there will be any kind of amity once Gaddafi is finally got rid of, that it will be very hard to make any kind of political consensus.
Absolutely. I think what has undone the Gaddafi regime ultimately is a combination of NATO air power and rebel forces fighting on the ground. And there's no guarantee that the rebels will come to a unanimous decision as to who should run Libya. And let's not forget that ultimately Libya is a fairly recent creation, and there's no guarantee that it will remain a single entity.
Kim Howells, it's unarguable that before NATO intervened, the rebels were on the run. That was why NATO intervened. NATO has made this. Does it not have a responsibility somehow to continue to make sure it has a peaceful end?
Well, I'm not sure, because the great fashion now, of course, is to ensure that the UN and the Arab League backs everything. I think one of the things that comes out of this Libyan, these extraordinary things going on in Libya, is how useless the Arab League is. I mean,
tell us something new.
Well, it's got to be repeated. Only one country, Qatar, sent any planes in to help. And apparently they ran out of fuel and they weren't used.
Including munitions.
And I think it's extraordinary that, that people believe that there aren't going to be any problems in the future. I think all of these dictators in the Middle East are going to be dreadfully worried about what they're seeing going on in Libya tonight.
Okay, thank you all very much indeed. Thank you.